My name is Niall Blaisdell, and I'm currently the president of the River Valley Disc Golf Association. And you are also on the River Valley Disc Golf Association with me, and you are?
Brian Barnes. Yes, I'm the treasurer this year. Been on the board for, probably about 8 years now.
Yeah,
Just throwing
yeah.
that out. Been in town since 2010. And part of the reason I came to town was because I saw the disc golf course at Pleasant View Park.
hmm
And when I crossed that bridge, walking over from the parking lot, and you walk over the Illinois Bayou, it just looks so pretty. And when I saw how challenging the course was, I was like, yeah, I think I could move to Russellville.
Were you playing disc golf at the time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been playing disc golf since 1994.
Oh my gosh, you're dating yourself there.
Yeah.
I started disc golf around 2010. So I graduated in 2010, came to Tech, and I was just had a buddy take me out to Old Post, and that's where I cut my teeth on disc golf. And of course, it was like just here's a nuke, grip it and rip it, and this is terrible. But I really got hooked to it. I didn't know it was such a national thing and such a big thing. Then left and came back here and been doing it ever since.
Yeah. It's a
So I guess we can talk a little bit about like what is the club and what does it do if you want to
yeah,
throw
the
some
River
stuff out.
Valley Disc Golf Association. I've
Oh
got
yeah,
a
you're repping.
shirt here. We made some shirts years ago, and there's a whole bunch of us that like to get together as a group and play disc golf. So, it starts off with you're just playing with your buddies, and maybe, you aren't good at first, but then you learn how to play a
hmm
little bit better, and you want to be a little bit more competitive and find other people in the area who, have been playing for a while, and even people who haven't been playing for a while, they see us out there as a group, and they're like, "Oh, what are they doing?" And if they want to meet some friends, it's a good place to relax, and you're playing a sport, and people will really help you out. If you're new to the game, they'll show you what discs you need to get and how to throw certain shots, and be really encouraging, as well as providing a little bit of competition if you're looking for that. But mainly it's just a good time to exercise and get out walking around in our nice parks here in the River Valley.
Oh yeah, and people don't talk about that enough. That disc golf is what I love is it's so accessible to everyone. You can be a kid, you can be in your 60s, 70s. I saw a guy in his 90s who was playing there for a while. There was one of the disc golf magazines, but it's just very accessible. Um, but it does provide that challenge and it doesn't break the bank to get into it. Um, and I guess if people don't really know what disc golf is, we might touch on that. So, are you just out there throwing frisbees, or what is this thing?
Some people throw frisbees, some people throw, something you can buy at Walmart for a couple bucks, and the real serious disc golfers figure out that those can't fly very far.
hmm
So there are special discs made for the sport, and they're pretty heavy compared to a regular frisbee. They're a little bit slimmer profile. And I think you brought a few examples with you.
Yeah.
There's drivers and mid ranges and putters, and you really just need one disc to play the sport. But as you develop certain techniques, you end up getting a variety of discs, and some of them will turn left if you're a backhand righty thrower. Some will turn right. It depends on the stability of the disc and the aerodynamics of the
hmm
flight of it. So yeah, what do you have over
Well, and
there?
I would say if you ever want to get interested in disc golf, don't worry about all the math and science. Just grab some disc and get your hands on it and enjoy playing. Then you can figure that stuff out, which is another good reason to play with the club because there's a lot of times when I was playing and I was pretty young, they were like, "Well, throw this." Oh, what was that? And so, but just in general, you have different types of discs. So a putter is going to be really blunt. It's going to be slow moving through the air. That edge is going to catch the air. But you got more control with the more blunt edge.
It's
Mi-
probably most similar to a frisbee
yes,
that people would play catch with.
yes. And just like the other disc, it's heavier. If you look at the profile of a mid range compared to a putter, it starts to get a little sharper. It's going to be designed to go a little further. And then a driver is going to have that sharpest edge. And that is just the most basic way of describing what a disc is, but like you were saying earlier, there's some that will they have different stability. So it might want to turn out of its flight faster. It might want to flip in its flight. I think it's really cool that disc golf is the only sport that you can throw three directions in one shot. So if you throw a flippy disc on a hyzer, it's going to start left, it's going to cut right, it's going to finish left again. So unlike traditional golf or any other sport, you've got a tree or you're playing in the woods and you've got obstacles to go around. You can work that disc through those trees in a very specific way, and it's just so cool to watch them fly.
And the shape of that driver especially is kind of like a wing. If you think of an
Yes.
airplane, you've got the air flowing underneath at one speed and
Yes.
the air flowing over top at another speed, and that provides some lift. And depending on the wind conditions, a headwind will affect the disc different than a tailwind or a
Absolutely.
crosswind. And so playing the wind is a real key part of the game. And with the courses we have in Russellville, we've got a variety of wooded courses and wooded holes, as well as some more open ones where you don't have to worry about hitting trees. And then we've got some challenging ones that are surrounded by water. And, the one at Pleasant View is probably most challenging because of that. If you throw it in the water, you're probably not going to get it back because it's pretty
It's
deep right
pretty
off
deep.
the edge. So one thing I've learned is just, if you want to keep your discs, throw safe conservative shots
Hmm.
and know where your disc is going to land
Hmm.
before you throw it. But it is kind of hard to start with to have that control. When I first started playing, all my discs would want to fly up in the air and fade left. And
Yep.
eventually I started leveling it out more and getting more distance that way. And with the control, you learn not to throw those errant shots in the bushes or in the poison ivy if you can avoid it.
Well, yeah, when you first start, it's just, I want to throw this thing as hard as I can. And you realize that it's more about form and control, letting the disc do what it's intending to do. And then you're just a conduit for that action. And then the disc will fly for itself. And that's where it takes some time. But a little more about what the club does is we have those events where we get together and play. So we do two things, right? We have tags and we have our flip doubles. And for tags, tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Oh, well, I've got the number one tag at this
Oh yeah,
moment
big
right now.
bragger.
So we like to hang our tags on our bags or keep them with us, and when we play for them, uh, we all figure out who the best disc golfer was that day by
Hmm.
seeing what the scores were. And if you had the best score, you get the number one tag. And then we've got, tags numbered up from there. One of our club members, Logan, he created these at his work here in town. So that was kind of neat that we had homemade tags this year, but we get new tags every year. And so we'll have an end of year tag event, which is kind of like a little mini tournament. And whoever ends up with the number one tag after that event is the season champion, so to speak. But throughout the year, we'll get together weekly and play for these tags, and it's just a fun way to keep it competitive and to challenge each other and just try to boost each other's game up. Because competition usually induces a little bit better play out of people. They're focusing a little bit more. It's a casual round, but it's not as casual as just going out and not caring what your score is.
Yeah, and not
Yeah.
as competitive as a sanctioned tournament event where they're like, "Did you lay your mini down?" and
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that
We don't
stuff.
necessarily play by all the official PDGA rules, but we keep the spirit of the game in
Yes,
there.
yes, I have a lot of fun with it. So for those tag events, we buy a tag, so everybody gets one, whether you get the one or whatever. I think I have 36. Actually, just sold it. I need to get another one. But um, those tags you get to carry with you all year, and then at the end of the year, we have that end of the year tags event where we can get the final layout of who settles where. And we've got tags into the hundreds, so anybody can just come and get a tag. And right now they're $10.
Yep. $10 for the rest of the
Hmm.
year. And I've got an extra one for you. I'll get after this
Oh, good,
interview.
good.
And we sell those to just support the club, and people get a little skin in the game. In the
Yep.
club, they feel as a member, they're part of some group that's going to help do some course maintenance and do some events here in the River Valley
Hmm.
for the community and for getting people out there in the park to play. Uh, we also have an ace pot for $1. So if you
Hmm.
get a hole in one, we call that an ace. If you throw it in one shot, and we'll let that pot build up occasionally. It'll get in a couple $100, and when somebody gets a hole in one, they get a big check to go spend
Yep.
it on food or more disc golf
Yep.
stuff or whatever they want to do. But it's just kind of fun to celebrate somebody getting an accomplishment like
Hmm.
that, because it's pretty hard to get a hole in one at our courses. We've got some holes that are more aceable than others,
Hmm.
and this time of year when it warms up, it seems like people's games get better, and we'll start
Oh, they
hitting
go
some
out more.
aces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one time I got an ace during tags, I was not in the ace pot. I didn't bring my dollar for that day, and I was kicked myself ever since for that. It was Old Post too. Who gets an ace at Old Post? But you mentioned course maintenance. So some of the things we do is we own a zero turn lawnmower, and we'll go out. Mark Likens is the guy who's always been doing that, but he'll mow Old Post, the Old Post course there. So that isn't done typically by the park or whatever. The park does part of the course, but a huge portion of that is done by Mark. And then anytime we need to set baskets, or we need to make sure the signs are updated, or we need to set tee pads, or any kind of course maintenance, it's the club that's out there doing that. And that's where some of those monies go.
Yeah, Old Post would not exist as a course if our club did not enter an agreement with the Army Corps
Hmm.
of Engineers to take care of the mowing for about half of the holes out
Yep.
there. The holes on the east side of the road going up to the lookout are pretty much all mowed by Mark Likens, who's a local pastor at
Hmm.
Grace Fellowship here in town, and he's been with the club for years. He's been the treasurer and the president in years past, and he's still serving in a capacity of our lawnmower. And he'll get out there when the grass gets tall and mow it for us to make sure we aren't walking in knee high grass, because
Hmm.
that's, in some people's minds, that would be an unplayable course if it wasn't mowed, if it was just
Hmm.
all tall grass. And with the ticks and things and the critters we have here in the River Valley, that's not really safe for people to be walking around if you could get some, tick-borne illnesses
Hmm.
and stuff. So keeping the grass mowed is pretty essential for course maintenance. If you want people to show up and play the course, it's got to be in a good enough condition that people will have a fun time doing it.
Absolutely. And I'd say we've got some world class courses here. So if we've talked about Pleasant View, we've talked about Old Post. Those are the big kid courses. So if you can be a noodle arm and go out there as a beginner, and you're going to play a lot because you're going to throw a lot of shots to get to the holes. But if you've been playing for a while and you really want to challenge yourself, those are the courses to do it. If you're a beginner and you're just getting into the game and you're trying to figure out how to play this thing, what are some courses locally that you'd recommend?
Hickory Hollow is definitely the best one. It's by the middle school on Hickory Hollow or 8th Avenue. And that course is really ideal for anybody getting into the sport. You're not going to lose a disc out there. There's no water hazards.
Mhm.
There's no thick brush to worry about. The school mows it on a regular basis, and it's short enough holes that you're not going to hurt your arm by throwing 100 times out there. It's also pretty shaded. There's a lot of big trees out there, and it's a real pretty park like course. It's got 9 holes on it that you can play around twice from different tee pads for a full 18. And that course was really put in the middle of a neighborhood to encourage families and students to play disc golf, because you don't have to drive. If you live in town, you can just walk or use the bike trail that they
Mhm.
recently installed there, which is real convenient. So um, I would say that's the best place to learn. Now, the city church over by the interstate, they've also got a real
Mhm.
fun course. About half of that is shaded, and the other half is out in the open. And similar to Hickory Hollow, you can play 9 holes around twice from different tee pads for a full 18. Or if you just want to cut it short, and play 9 holes, you can
Mhm.
do that too. And I like that course because it's unique. It's at a church, and so the tee signs have Bible verses in
Yeah.
them for encouragement
Yeah.
and just a positive message that you can read if your game is going bad. It's
Yeah.
good to read a Bible verse and you get encouragement. So
Absolutely.
each hole you can approach as a new hole. It's a really nice place that Steve Bennett installed that, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of people who go to that church that maintain that course. It's a really fun one. I like to play it. There's some aceable holes out there,
Mhm.
and
A
um,
hanging basket.
hanging baskets. There's some artwork that Zeno Schaefer
Yep.
did on a mural above the basket that you can see from the interstate as you're passing by. It's really a unique course that I'm glad we have that as an addition. And then the other course is across the river in Dardanelle at
Oh, yeah.
Merritt
Merit.
Park. Merritt Park has a good 9 hole course that you can play around twice from the same tee
Mhm.
pads, but for 18 holes if you want to do that, or just play it 9 holes. That's right by the soccer fields, the baseball fields, and the recreation activity center there. So there's a lot of other things to do in that park. It's not just disc golf, but they saw land available that
Mhm.
was being underutilized, and so they put some baskets out there. And now it's a great thing that people on that side of the river don't have to travel
Yes.
into Russellville to necessarily play. They can play Merritt out there, and it's really fun. I don't get over there hardly enough,
Mhm.
but it's a fun course. I like it.
What's cool about any of those courses is if you drive by them, especially on a weekend, you'll see people out there playing on them. A lot of times they'll have their kids or whatever, and it's pretty cool to watch. And I got to shamelessly plug the Dover course. So that's the course over at the Dover School, and I put that in with the help of the club and a lot of local support. But the front nine of that one, it's kind of the same thing. Instead of nine, we got 10 baskets, but it's basically you're playing it twice. You got a short and a long, but that short is for if you're newer to the game and you want to challenge yourself. There's a lot of elevation at that course. There's going to be going up and down some hills, so bring your hiking shoes. And then the back nine is going to have the more distance. So you can play it short twice, you can play the short long, you can go long, long, however you want to approach it, but try to have a lot of variety there of shots and opportunities for people to try out. So all that to say, we're in a disc golf oasis here. It's a very unique area here in the River Valley, and we've got a club that's doing a lot to support it.
Definitely. And you being the band director at Dover
Hmm.
and getting the local community to buy into disc golf and put one there has been awesome for that
Hmm.
school district for sure. And there's a lot of schools across the country that have disc golf put in their campuses if they have enough room. And it could be a PE sport for folks, or it could be an after school thing for kids waiting for their parents to pick them up or something like that. It's just, if it's in the neighborhood and accessible to
Hmm.
people, they'll use it. And the one at Dover I really like because it's got that hill,
Hmm.
and you get a better workout there than some of the other courses that are flatter. So it's got enough trees too to make it challenging. And playing it around twice from different tee pads, I
Hmm.
like that for utilizing a smaller space where you maybe don't have room for 18 holes, but you use some creativity and put the tee pads in different places, and all of a sudden your line to the basket is changed up, and,
Yes.
and it is a unique hole.
We worked really hard to make sure that that course didn't feel like you're doing the same shot, just longer in all the areas. Um, and I'm going to be running an after school program through Dover. They got some grant and they're going to buy a bunch of disc. And once a week, when school starts back up, I'll be teaching disc golf. So
Cool.
that's going to be fun. It'll be like elementary through fifth grade. I'm pretty sure is what we got there, but that'll be neat. What made you want to be part of the club initially?
So when I first got here, I didn't know anybody. I wasn't from Arkansas, and so to meet people, I was like, hey, I'll play disc golf and see some people out
Hmm.
there. And somebody told me about the club when I was just out there playing around on my own. And I thought, oh, that's cool. That'll be a good way to meet people locally. And I developed some good friendships through there, and learned about other disc golf courses in the area. There's one in Clarksville. There's There were ones in Little Rock and Fort Smith at the time. There weren't a ton in Arkansas, probably just 40 or so
Hmm.
across the whole state. And within about 5 years, it really took off. And now there's over 140 in the
Hmm.
state, I'm pretty sure. So when I first moved here, it was before Old Post had opened their course, but the club had already been active and they had already gotten the plans in place for that. And so that was a surprise when that was put in because I
Hmm.
was happy with just Pleasant View. And then when Old Post was added, at the time it was one of the best in the state, and
Yes.
people would come all over just to play that. So that's how I got into the club was they were offering friendship or people to play with,
Hmm.
and they were also providing some competition, which I wasn't necessarily a competitive disc golf player at the time, but as you get better, it's kind of fun to learn from each other, and I started getting into tournaments and stuff like that, and the club was hosting some tournaments. They were doing 3-person scrambles for charity, or they'd do a singles tournament in fall. And when you play a tournament, you get a special stamped disc a
Hmm.
lot of times. And so I was adding to my disc collection and learning different discs and how they fly and stuff. And so I had a group of people around me who could educate me on that sort of thing. I had only played with a group of disc golfers in high school and college, and it was just my buddies.
Yeah.
So that's what I was comfortable with. And then I went to California and worked there for a while, and the club there was a little different. It was called Par Infinity, and that was a really solid club that had been around for generations, and they're still around today doing awesome things. And so I saw the value of what a club could
Yeah.
be. And when I found out there was a club locally, I was like, I want to be a part of that.
Mm.
I want to contribute. I want to add to the culture and get something from it. And it's been all of that plus more. And a lot of my friends now are people I met playing disc
Yeah.
golf.
Yeah. Me.
Either yeah, you and there's people all across the state
Yeah.
I'll see at tournaments,
Yeah.
and I may not see them every week, but we stay in touch through social media and stuff like that. And so it's fun to watch them play good too. And there's even somebody I played with last year over in Van Buren, or actually it was Greenwood. I played with James Collier,
Oh yeah.
and this year
Yeah.
he just won the U.S. Amateur at U.S.
Yeah.
Championships. And so to see somebody like him from
Yeah.
Arkansas go on
Which
to
is
big
awesome.
things is really neat. And we already had Kevin Jones from Greenwood, who, yeah, you're wearing his shirt.
Repping his
Kevin
jersey.
Jones was a local guy. He came to Arkansas Tech and played for a few years, and hanging out with him and watching him play since he was, a small teenager to now he's on the professional disc golf tour
Yeah.
and getting paid by sponsors.
Yeah.
And it's just exciting to see people in the sport
Hmm.
take off like that. One of the guys, when I first moved to Russellville and got in the club, Matt Lloyd,
Yeah.
he helped run the club for years, helped get a lot of courses installed locally and in the state. Now he's working for the Professional
Yeah.
Disc Golf Association, and he just finished running the women's championships this last weekend in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to see how local people playing disc golf have made careers out of it.
Hmm.
And I never tried to do that. I don't have any interest in it, but for somebody to do a sport that they love and get paid for it, figure out a
Hmm.
way to contribute to the sport and make it a profession, that's really amazing to me.
And you've got this moniker that it took me a while to figure out it was you, the Arkansas Disc Golf Traveler. What's the story behind that?
Well, it's the disc
Or
golf
just disc golf,
Arkansas
Arkansas.
Traveler,
Okay, okay.
because there's the Arkansas Traveler, which I
Yes.
learned about when I moved here, and I thought, oh, I'll be I like traveling and
Yeah.
playing disc golf, so I just kind of created a Facebook page. People can follow me
Yeah.
along as I play courses around the country, and I'm up to about 1,950 courses,
Yeah.
unique courses I played, which is not very many people in the world have played that many.
Yeah.
There's some who have played over 3,000, but I just love traveling and playing courses that are
Hmm.
new and seeing what different course designers will do for the space that they're
Yeah.
given and how they incorporate nature or maybe some uh, landscaping to their
Hmm.
courses to make a whole unique. and we've got some awesome ones here in Russellville, that's for sure. At one time, I think Pleasant View and Old Post were the two top rated ones in the state.
Yeah,
And
they were on the
I've
pro
played
tour for a bit.
pretty much everything in the state, and I could say these are definitely two of the best.
Hmm.
We've got some others that have opened up in the last 5 or 10 years that are attracting even more
Hmm.
pro events and stuff. But at one time, yeah, Justin Myrick
Yep.
from the
Yep.
Assembly the Baptist church,
Yes.
he was running the Vintage Open for about 10 years, and in those last couple of years he was getting the Pro Tour Silver Series to
Yeah.
stop by with a whole bunch of professional disc golfers and showcasing our courses here locally to video taped events. So a
You
lot
can
of
still
those
find those on YouTube.
a lot of those people will come back because we're right off the interstate,
Yeah.
and if they're traveling through the state on their tour, or going from one city stop to another, they'll stop in
Oh,
Russellville
who
and
was
play our
just through? It was
courses.
Calvin Heimberg. He came through not that long ago and
Yep.
played with the Cochrans. Just like, where was my invite? But
So what's something people don't usually see that happens behind the scenes?
yeah, so as you know, especially if we're doing, say, Hickory Hollow, there was an issue where people were throwing disc over the fence. And I don't even think they were club members. I think it's just people coming through and throwing, but they throw them over the fence and they'd climb into people's yards, and the people didn't want them climbing in their yards. So to help them out, we had to move the tee pads and kind of reimagine that course. So who moves them? We do. So getting someone out there like Alex Cochran with the machinery to dig up those tee pads, luckily they were put in pretty sturdy, and we were able to reset the baskets and the tee pads and make a course layout that works. But any of the stuff that happens behind the scenes, I remember I was naive and I always thought just the city or whatever maintained all this stuff, but it's not. It's the club, and the club does the manpower to make sure if there's fallen branches that we're going to do a cleanup day. If there's a sign that needs to be updated, we need to make sure we're keeping on top of those sponsorships. If there's any of that stuff that happens behind the scenes, it doesn't just magically happen. There's people out there sweating to make sure that those things.
Yeah, volunteers. It takes volunteers.
And you don't have to be on the board to be a volunteer. You can be somebody who just loves disc golf. You can be somebody who goes out and plays and is just happy to have a maintained course. And you can see when we're doing a work day, hey, I'm going to go come out for a couple hours and pick up some twigs. And it's helpful tremendously.
Some of the courses are maintained like in a mowing respect with equipment that the city will mow.
Yep.
Pleasant View, and they do a fabulous job of that. That's a lot of acres to mow, but they don't necessarily know which logs we want to pick up in the woods and stuff. So we'll end up getting some folks to move those things out of the way.
I think the last work day, we put that hanging basket in the long position at Pleasant View. We took a lot of that crushed gravel and we leveled out the areas behind the tee pads so people could have more of a run up, picked up sticks, all kinds of stuff like that. So tell me about a time when things didn't go as planned.
When things didn't go as planned, well, we were just talking about this. What did we bring up?
It was the last tournament we did. So as you said, we do fundraiser tournaments.
And let's talk about UDisc. We have a scoring app we use, and all the courses, if you want to find a course somewhere near you, there's an app called UDisc, the letter U, DISC, and that has maps of where all the courses are, as well as descriptions of how to get there and directions you can go. And so all of our courses are on UDisc. We have layouts provided on there so you know where hole 1 starts and where hole 2 starts and ends. And we can also add events using this. So with the local club, we use that for our scoring, for our weekly minis, as well as our tournaments. And you mentioned at the last tournament,
I was the guy that set up the UDisc for that event, and to give him credit, it's kind of experimental to have a because it was doubles, or was it singles for this last one?
It was triples.
It was triples, yes. So it was triples, and it was on different courses. So if it was all on one course, it would have been fine. It was on multiple courses, so we had to lay it out a certain way. So the first round went great. Scoring and everything worked. The second round, the whole time between lunch and right before the start of that second round, we were just having technical issue after technical issue after technical issue. So me and Tim, we hop in my truck and we start driving all over Old Post, taking paper cards and handing them out to everybody. So it's always good to have a backup plan. Things don't always go as planned, but everybody played it and they had a great time. And we took those scores, were able to tally them and get everything going. So as far as the people who played, it was not even an inconvenience. As far as me, I was having a heart attack, but
Yeah,
it was.
the scoring app is awesome. You know, technology is great when it works. It saves
Mhm.
you time and resources. But that day, I think nationwide or worldwide,
Yeah,
everybody was having problems with the
yeah,
app, and so it wasn't just our club's
yeah.
event that was having an issue. So that's when we went back to old school
Mhm.
paper and a pencil, and you know sometimes you just can't beat that for keeping score if you're gonna keep score.
The funniest part was Tim, just out of habit, locked my door to my truck, but my keys were in my truck and my bag was in my truck. So I'm playing the tournament as well. So I had to get my wife to come bring me keys to unlock my truck with the spares so I could get my disc. So I played the first like 4 or 5 holes with someone else's disc, just playing blind. And it was funny because it's like, what do I need to, do you got something stable? He's like, throw this. And I was actually doing all right. I started playing worse when I got my own disc. So it shows how much you can get in your head when you think you should do something.
It's good to roll with it. Maybe things not going to plan is okay
Hmm.
sometimes. And yeah, most people carry a bag with a lot of discs, and your bag probably holds 20 something discs, I'm guessing. Some people just carry their discs. They just have a small stack of discs, two to
Hmm.
three. Other people have a cart. I like using a cart for my discs so I can
Hmm.
have a place to sit while I'm waiting for other people to do their thing. And maybe there's a little backup in a tournament. So it's nice to have a cart that carries all your drinks and, you know, towels and things like that. And I might play with a dozen discs if I carry a bag, but a cart, I can carry a few extra discs in
Hmm.
case I throw one in the water
Hmm.
accidentally or lose it. I'll have a backup with me.
When you're talking about, when you're talking about traveling and playing at different places, whenever I do the same thing, and drives my wife crazy because it's like, oh, we're gonna go to Colorado, or not Colorado, we're going Montana. I was like, cool. Where's the nearest disc golf course to our hotel? And it's like, what? And then we went to Hawaii a few years back, and it's like, cool. Where's the nearest disc golf course to this? So I'll bring like a putter, a mid, and a driver and a fairway, and just kind of go
That's all
skinny
you
with that.
need.
Yeah. So I have a lot here, but I only use so many of them.
And you've got a disc golf retriever too. So if
I
you
got the
throw
fancy
a
kind.
disc in a tree and it's up high and you can't get it, or if it's in the water and you can see it and reach it, you've that thing extends to like 12, 18 feet,
Yeah,
right?
it's like
And it's
20
got
feet, I
suction
think.
cups on the end,
Hmm.
so it just sticks to the discs and pulls it right out
Yeah,
like
it's pretty
magic.
cool. What's something you've learned since starting either disc golf or being on the club or being on the, in the board?
Well, being on the board, I've learned a lot from people who were on the board before me. I didn't know how things
Hmm.
went necessarily, so I had to learn from Mark Likens what sorts of permits we had to get to run an event
Hmm.
at Pleasant View. We go to the Hughes Center to get a permit from the city recreation department, or we go to the Army Corps of Engineers to get permission to hold an event there. And then there's some funding opportunities as a nonprofit our club can get
Hmm.
to help host events that will bring in people from out of town to come play disc golf. We do that a lot for our charity event in the springtime, and we've raised money for a lot of different charities, and
Hmm.
that's something that the club started at Pleasant View years ago, and it's morphed into finding a new charity for every year. And so that's been really neat seeing what charities we have in the River Valley, and which charities are doing outreach to families or to kids or to like the homeless shelter, like the Rust Bus. We
Hmm.
benefited them quite a few years, and to get people to come to our event, we incentivize it with a raffle and with discs that are provided for being in the tournament, and a lot of that seed money is provided by like a grant from the local tourism board, I think, or AMP
Something
commission.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that helps us to purchase the materials up front, and then we can recoup some of that money
Hmm.
once we start selling, entry fees and raffle tickets and stuff like that. And it's brought people from all over the state to Russellville to, see what our courses are about. They eat in our local establishments.
Hmm.
Feltner's Whataburger is a popular one. We had a long distance drive competition every year, and we will award some cash prizes for that to see who can throw the furthest disc.
Hmm.
And these guys are throwing it over 500 feet a lot of times, so we're getting some of the biggest arms in the state coming to Russellville. And then with the raffle, all that money goes to the charity. And that's just one of the things I've learned, being on the board, is that there's people who really want to help the community,
Hmm.
and they're willing to bring their money and
Hmm.
fund stuff like that. And there's people who will just drop $100 in raffle
Yes.
tickets, and they might win a couple discs, they might win a basket. And if you've got a basket, you can create your own course on your own
Hmm.
property, or take it to a park that maybe doesn't have baskets, and see, would it be suitable for a disc golf course,
Hmm.
or maybe, you just like to play and practice putting in your yard. And so there's a lot of people who have won baskets over the years, a lot of club members, and they've gotten better at putting just because they have that
Hmm.
basket in their yard. They don't necessarily come out to the course and practice putting because, that takes extra effort. But if you got one right in your yard or in your house even, you can play disc golf just about any time of day.
Absolutely. I can attest to that. I got one in my yard. And you'd mentioned our 501c3 status. So obviously we have people that can sponsor us, and that could be a deduction. But there's nothing that says that we have to do these charity events. There's nothing that says we have to do anything. We just have the people in our club and on our board who really care about that being plugged into the community. And it's not just about the disc golf courses, it's about how are we engaging with the community as a whole. And I really love that that's something that we do.
So, Niall, why does this matter to you personally?
I like being a part of something, and kind of like you mentioned earlier, you met a lot of friends through the sport. To me, the people in disc golf are just awesome. They're some of the best people you'll ever meet. I like to tell the story of Kim and Steve Jones over at Persimmon Ridge, and they bought this. It was a traditional golf course, and they were going to run it as a wedding venue. And brides are hard to deal with, so they had like a son-in-law or something who was trying to convince them to turn it into a disc golf course. And they're like, "We don't want a bunch of pot smoking hippies out here." And they ran a mini event with temporary baskets, and the people came, and they were just so polite and kind that they picked up trash that was like, just they left the place cleaner than they found it. And I think that's what you get a lot of with disc golf is you get the people that are, I see you all the time. We'll be walking, you'll see a piece of trash, you'll just pick it up and shove it in your bag. And people really care about the environment, they care about nature, they care about people, and it's just a friendly time. And yeah, you get see people at their highest, you see people at their lowest. It's just a really exciting game to me. And I'm not a sporty guy. I never I did a little bit of track in high school just to do something. I never got into anything basketball, baseball, any sport like that. But disc golf just hooked me in a way that nothing else ever did. So I just wanted to bury myself in that as much as possible.
Well, it's an individual sport, but you can play it with a
Yeah.
group or on your own.
Yeah.
And when you play it with a group of people, you find that camaraderie that you may not have necessarily playing on your own, but you're not on a team, but you're part of a group of people that are like-minded. They're
Yeah.
out there enjoying nature and walking around and throwing a disc and really just enjoying the flight of the disc. That's a fun aspect, is to see how the disc reacts in the wind,
Hmm.
and just kind of watching other people throw. I like doing that.
Hmm.
Um, I get tired of watching my own disc throw fly sometimes, unless it's a really good shot. But playing with other people, you get to see other throwing styles,
Hmm.
and if they're better than you, or even if uh, they can do something, a throw you can't do, it, you stand there in awe, and it's kind of an artistic expression that they're able to do with, their bodies and their disc. And
Yeah, there's been a lot of times where I'll watch somebody throw a shot and I'll go, I never thought about approaching the hole that way. And then I'll try it and either it'll work for me or it won't. But there's a lot of times I've completely changed up my game because of how I've seen somebody else play a shot. And you mentioned playing with other people. We haven't even talked about flip doubles, if you want to touch on that a bit.
yeah, that's a random pairing that we do on Sundays at 1:30, and it's various courses. We have a schedule, a calendar that we come out with every month that shows where we're planning to play. We do flip doubles on Sundays traditionally,
Hmm.
and it's you don't have to bring a partner. If you do bring somebody with you, a friend, chances are you could play together if it's a new person to the sport and you're trying to introduce them to the sport, or we can just throw them in as a random partner, and that's where we flip our discs heads or tails.
Hmm.
We separate the flock into heads and tails, and then everybody flips until you've got one partner. Occasionally somebody will be single and then they'll get to throw two shots on every hole, as their own partner, and we just get together and play for a little bit of money just to put some skin in the game and
Hmm.
make people care a little bit more. $5 if you want to play, and the dollar to the ace pot is optional always, but
Hmm.
it gets people who want to play for money interested. And our typical minis where we're just playing singles, we don't play for money. At least we haven't since I've been here.
Hmm.
Um, that is different if you go to other clubs. Some clubs in Fort Smith or up in Northwest Arkansas, they'll play for money every single time they get together if they want to.
Hmm.
But our club just traditionally just gets together and plays for free, except for the flip doubles.
Yeah.
And so it's uh, something, I guess, more competitive people show up for that because it's mostly a winner take all thing.
Yep.
And if two good players get on a team together,
Yeah.
they're kind of the ones to beat, and everybody's kind of gunning for them. So,
Hmm.
but if you don't care about losing $5, then it's just a good time out with people. And since it's doubles, if you throw a bad shot, your partner can usually help you out, and so you're not throwing as many shots per hole. It's a little bit more fun. I play golf, ball golf
Hmm.
too, but I'm not as good a golfer as I am a disc golfer. And so there's just this last weekend, I played ball golf with my parents and my brother, and we just switch up teammates every 6 holes,
Oh,
and
nice.
we play doubles, and it
Yeah.
makes the round go quicker. You don't have to worry about hitting a bad shot. You don't feel bad about yourself as much when you do
Hmm.
that. And just having another person on your team, it makes things more fun, I think.
No, that was fun for me. Even now, like, but as a beginner, when I was getting in, and I would just shank them every now and then my teammate could throw a better shot. It's like, oh, okay, thank you, or vice versa. I throw the one, and they can go more aggressive, and you have some strategy that goes. So flip doubles is a lot of fun. What's a small moment that stuck with you in this game?
Small moments. Well, personally, I I've seen some things where there there's something in the universe. Some people call it karma or whatever, but there's something out there that it seems like if you do something good will happen back to you. If you do something bad will happen
Hmm.
back to you. And so I've seen that on the golf course a lot of times where sometimes if you get down on yourself, you're not going to have a good round. You're just going to be more and more
Hmm.
upset. And so part of golf, whether it's ball golf or disc golf, I think is the psychology part of the game or the mental part of the game
Hmm.
where you have to realize you can't take a negative uh, feeling and let it progress. It just will take you further down. But
Yes.
if you flip things up and keep things positive, and you encourage your card mates, the people you're playing with, if you encourage them, they'll encourage you. Good things will happen. Like amazing shots can happen sometimes. Maybe that ace will happen if you're just having, the
Hmm.
time of your life out there. And that energy is infectious, whether it's good energy or bad energy. Energy is infectious. And to um, get yourself out of a negative mindset and into a positive mindset takes either some sort of inner dialogue, or you have to be open to somebody else's positivity, and that's really been interesting to see out there. Just little moments. I I can't really explain anything specifically,
Mhm.
but that's something I've noticed.
I've noticed that sometimes that translates back to life too. So if you've got these, if you hit a tree right off the tee and you can either, okay, I'm terrible and my game's ruined, or you can go, okay, I just get to play more disc golf now. And I find that translates into life. I get an email from an angry, person or something. It's like, oh, life's over. Or okay, well, it's gonna be fine. I can work through this. You build those same neural pathways.
Another thing I would say is there's things I've seen in disc golf on TV watching the pros now,
Hmm.
and James Conrad throwing in what they call the
The
holy
holy
shot.
shot. Google it.
Uh, the YouTube video is amazing in itself,
Yes.
but there's moments like that in the game that are just really special and magical.
Hmm.
And the one thing I saw personally was in Emporia, Kansas, one time. There was a putting competition, and it came down to the finals. And one night on the street, they had the streets blocked off, and Dynamic Discs is running this event. And there's two people, Nico LaCastro and Jay Yeti Redding, and they're the last two people who are in the putting
Hmm.
competition. And the crowd is standing around them. There's just really a lane open from them to the basket, and it's just shoulder to shoulder people. And it came down to the last shot, and Jay Redding hit it and made it. And he celebrated with the crowd, and even Nico, who had just lost in dramatic fashion,
Hmm.
he was celebrating because the moment was so
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of planning by the people at Dynamic Discs and a lot of volunteers involved just to make an event for that community
Hmm.
happen. But their community has been around disc golf for over a decade now, and they're so infatuated with it that the neighborhoods will just support all the disc golfers as they come to town.
Hmm.
And the the energy there was something like I'd never seen before. And we did see some of that when the Vintage Open came to
Hmm.
town. During COVID, when a lot of the tournaments weren't happening across the country, we still had that here in Russellville,
Yep.
Arkansas, and so many pros came to town because we were the only tournament in the country
Hmm.
really happening at that time. And to see what could happen when a community came together and supported an event like that, it was magical. I mean, I'm thankful forever for Justin for organizing
Yes.
that and getting his group of volunteers in place to make an event like that happen, because it doesn't just happen overnight. It took months of planning
Yes.
and really years of building up to that
Hmm.
moment. And there's a lot of videos you can find on YouTube of that event where the pros came to town, and these are like world
Yeah.
championship guys: Ricky Wasaki, uh, Eagle McMahon, Simon Lazat, uh, Kevin Jones, of
Hmm.
course, and just some phenomenal players that came to Russellville to see what our community was all about. They came here for the disc golf, but as they're here, they get to experience all the other things like the downtown area.
Yes. I remember I'd have friends texting me because they knew I was into disc golf and they'd see the tour vans and whatnot. They're like, the heck is going on? I like the Vintage Open, baby.
Yeah. What do people get wrong about what you do?
So it ties into kind of what I was saying. I'll see if I can come up with something else, but that we're a bunch of pot smoking hippies, and there is some of that. I'm not gonna lie, but
Well, when I was in California, the Par Infinity
yeah,
was that type of
yeah,
club. And so when I came to Russellville, and I knew it was a dry county before I
hmm,
moved here, but the club was not a bunch of people drinking beer,
hmm,
not a bunch of people smoking pot. It was very unique
yeah,
in that respect, I thought. Because that happens in other clubs, but
yeah.
not every club.
Yeah. And it's kind of neat because you'll have, I mean, you might have that pot smoking hippie, but you might also have a police officer and they're on the same card and they're playing some disc golf. And it's just a really cool thing. I think something else that people get wrong is because I'll invite people to play in our club events, and they'll go, "Oh, I'm not good enough for that." And I'm like, "No, that's why you need to play in the club. It's not about if you're good or not. It's about getting into the community of disc golf. And if you're worried about being good, you're missing the point, I think. And you can get as competitive as you want, but for me, I get a lot of enjoyment out of just going out and playing with people that I like, and I do get better the more that I play, and it's just going to naturally happen. But don't wait till you're good enough. Just come out and try it. You're going to have a lot of fun.
And we have a lot of new people that just hang out with our club, and
Mhm.
they'll throw some awesome shots that, you know, maybe they didn't think they were good, but I'm looking at him, I'm like, wow, he just started 4 months ago and he's already throwing
Yeah.
like that.
Who's that kid? Mason something, Spivey, I think the other
Hmm.
named. Shout out Mason. He came and played, and
Yeah, he had some
I heard
awesome
some good
shots.
stuff about him. I didn't get to go to that one.
Some people cross over from other sports too, like
Hmm.
baseball players. They
Oh,
they
their
don't throw
sidearm.
backhand
Yeah.
necessarily, but they'll throw the forehand
Yep.
shot just like they're throwing a baseball, and it just comes more natural, that
Hmm.
throwing motion towards the basket, and it's fun to watch those shots. And when you get a really hard throwing baseball pitcher out there that throws the disc, 450, 500 feet,
Hmm.
that's pretty awesome. Maybe they play baseball too, but disc golf is like their side sport, or maybe they
Hmm.
used to play baseball and now they're not on a team anymore, but they found disc golf, provides them that level of competition and, being outside they
Yeah,
like.
and a lot of people who were sporty, but well, they were a football player, and you kind of age out of that after if you don't go pro after high school or college, and same with basketball or a lot of these sports. So disc golf is that opportunity to kind of go out and have a low impact sport that's still relatively athletic. If you could change one thing about how this works, whether it be how the club works or how disc golf works, or you can take this anywhere you want it, what would you change?
Takes a lot to mow Old Post, and I know that's a commitment the board made with the Army Corps of Engineers,
Hmm.
but I know Mark Likens enjoys being on the mower out there, um, but it's awfully hot out there right
Hmm.
now, and it seems like it would be nice if the Army Corps could mow that entire course. It'd add to their budget, when they got to be responsible stewards of taxpayer money. But
Hmm.
right now, that relies on volunteers and mowing it, and the club, furnishing the mower and maintenance costs on that, and the gas and all that goes with it. Uh, I would like to see that the Corps could just assume mowing, that part of the park too. But that's really the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. I wish there were some more people who would join the club for sure. Our
Hmm.
numbers for the last year or two have been down compared with what it was.
Hmm.
During the COVID epidemic, we had a pretty strong club, and before that, we had a strong club. A lot of people have moved away from town, and
Hmm.
maybe we haven't recruited as many younger people, or the people who are out there playing, just casually. Uh, if we could get, the Arkansas Tech students, every new class that comes in, if we could get a bunch of the students playing disc golf with our club, I think that would be
Oh,
awesome.
absolutely.
They're only around for the years that they're in college
Hmm.
usually, and then they take off. So that's not like a sustainable way to keep the
Yeah.
club going. But I'd like to see our club numbers get back up to where they were, and some more people get involved with the board and help us, move things along.
Hmm.
Because right now we are short a couple people on the board who, we've got enough room for officers to have a couple more on, and so
Yeah,
not more
absolutely.
on, but
Yeah. And if you're interested in being on the board, just reach out to one of us. And you're talking about these college students, which I see them out there playing. I know they're out there. How can they find us, the club, and how can they get onto our events? So how can they?
right now we're really just dependent on social media. Facebook, we have a page for River Valley Disc Golf Association, and then there's a group called Disc Heads River Valley Disc Golf
Mhm.
Association, and that's more of the social interaction through that group. Will somebody will post who's going to tags tonight, who wants to play
Mhm.
Pleasant View today, this afternoon, or who's going to the tournament. Tournament announcements will be shared on there
Hmm.
for local tournaments and throughout the state as well. And it's really the only way we're outreaching to people right now. So if they don't have Facebook, they're probably not hearing about us. We did have a website for a while that David Lopez was running
Hmm.
when he was on the board, and that was great when we had it. We were able to post our calendar and communicate information through that and share some photos and stuff and just kind of have a base.
Yeah.
But it costs money to maintain a website, so we don't have that anymore. Um, we could probably do other social media. Um, I'm on Instagram, but that's kind of like Facebook too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
interacting is really where we're probably lacking a little bit with
Yeah.
the newer people who aren't on Facebook. So I don't really know the answer to how to get more people
Yeah, I would agree.
aware of our club.
You'd mentioned earlier UDisc, and if you do download the UDisc app, it's got our schedule on there, so you can click events, and it'll show all the local events. You can expand it out and see what tournaments are going on and whatnot. But I'll pull that up if I'm like, well, I know it's Wednesday, so there's tags today, or it's Saturday, so I'm gonna okay, where's it at? Oh, it's at Pleasant View. Okay, I'll go over there. So that UDisc is another valuable resource.
And then the tournaments for Arkansas, that's usually shared on Disc Golf Scene.
Hmm.
So if we're running a local tournament, we'll post it
Yep.
there as well as um, the Facebook page. But that's one way, I find out about other tournaments is going on Disc Golf Scene or the PDGA event webpage.
Hmm.
But with Disc Golf Scene, I'll see tournaments that I didn't even know about that aren't PDGA
Yeah.
sanctioned.
Yeah.
There may be doubles events or maybe some sort of disc manufacturer has their own little
Hmm.
event that's promoting their brand, and there's people in Conway and other areas in the region that are doing tournaments pretty much every weekend. You can go to a tournament, and so I'm not in town on the weekends a lot of time. I'm visiting family or I'm playing in one of these
Yeah.
tournaments somewhere else, and a lot of our local club members do that as well if they're into playing tournaments. We have some really good players that are trying to play in events where there's added cash, so they
Hmm.
have a chance to make some money by beating the competition in the open division or the more professional divisions that are sponsored by other cities or other businesses and things like that. There's a ton of people you can meet by traveling and going to these tournaments. And when I do, I'm meeting new people and I'm, networking with them. And I'm always telling them about Russellville's courses and saying, if you're ever
Hmm.
on highway or the Interstate 40 and you're driving by, make sure you stop for a couple hours and check out our courses because they're two of the best that are right accessible
Hmm.
if you're traveling through the river valley.
I'll still meet people that I'll be, where are you from? Oh, I'm from some other state entirely. And like, I just came to play the course. It's like, oh, cool. You should.
Yeah. And I even tell people, some of the courses in town are the reason I moved to Russellville. So, if
Hmm.
somebody's thinking about moving somewhere, Russellville's a pretty cool town to
Hmm.
experience disc golf, and it's a gateway to the Ozarks and the Washitas. So if
Yeah.
you're an outdoors person, this is an awesome community to have a home base out of.
Yes.
There's a lot of things within an hour or two you can get to, a lot of bike
Yeah.
trails. I found out mountain biking isn't really my sport because last time I went out and did some of these trails, it was north of Lake Ludwig there. Right at the end, I fell off my bike and hurt my shoulder, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna hurt my disc golf game.
Oh,
I can't
no.
play disc golf now for a couple weeks." And so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna kick back
Yeah.
from the mountain bike thing and
Yeah.
just stick with disc golf for my health." But I still, will get out on my mountain bike sometimes. It's just,
Yeah.
more of the smooth trails with my mom riding the Greenway up in Bentonville or something
Yeah.
like
I'm,
that.
I'm afraid to mountain bike because I'm afraid I'll like it. And I've got too many hobbies right now. So if I add another, it's just going to be the end of me.
Well, if you do get a bike, plug for Jackalope Cycling. That's
Yep.
who
Yep.
outfitted me with my mountain bike, and they also carry disc golf
They do
gear. So
here in Russellville.
they're kind of our local disc golf shop.
They always sponsor our long drive. They put $500 of in the skin in the game there for us. So we really appreciate Jackalope.
And they also have a lost and found box. So as people are playing the courses in town,
Oh, I got to go
if
there.
you happen
I
to
got a
lose your
disc there.
disc, you can go to Jackalope and see if somebody's
Yeah,
turned it in there. We generally write our name and number on our discs, and hopefully somebody
yeah,
calls if they find it. But
yeah. I've got a green one sitting there right now.
yeah, I haven't been there in a while. I probably have a couple that I got
Yeah,
to go see.
yeah. That this is evolved over time, and I used to just be the biggest hothead when I first started playing. And if I missed a putt or something, I would take it very personally, and I would throw my bag at the basket, and I would say things that I probably shouldn't say. And the longer I've played, the longer I realize that it's the better you get, the less I seem to enjoy it. And I finally got to the point where when I stopped worrying about just winning all the time, I started playing better. And it was kind of what you were talking about earlier with mental game. And when I got out of my own head and I just started enjoying the sport of disc golf, which has only been in the last couple of years, um, I mean, I've always enjoyed it, but really just getting out of my own way, my game has gotten better. My shots have gotten better and everything. It's like, oh, who would have thought? So for me, success is just going out and playing and enjoying it for what it is. And if that means I play a tournament and I come in last, then if I enjoyed it, then I succeeded. If I play a tournament, because I've played tournaments where I've gotten third and I've just hated it because I didn't get first. And I realized I've just completely missed the point. So success is just enjoying the beauty of the sport, getting out in nature, getting with good people, and just throwing some plastic.
It's not a game for perfectionists. It's
Yeah.
golf has never been an easy game to swallow if you are a perfectionist. That's for sure. It can be frustrating if you're trying to beat somebody next to you, but if you're focused more on your own play and
Hmm.
trying to face the course as it is,
Hmm.
you kind of have to tune out how good somebody else is playing. Although you want to,
Yeah.
encourage them
Yeah.
and be happy for them, comparison is definitely the thief of
Yes. Joy.
enjoyment,
Yeah.
and that is something I still struggle with sometimes. But when you're in that frame of mind where you're kind of locked in on your own game, it's easier
Hmm.
to enjoy the game for sure.
Yeah, and then you watch pros and you go, well, I could do that. No, there's a reason they're a professional and they're dedicating.
If you imitate them, though, you can do
Yeah,
it.
you can.
You
You
learn
can.
how
Well,
to
I see like
imitate.
Emerson Keith, and I'm like, how's a kid that short throw that far? And yeah, I don't got that. But if I spent, every hour of the day working on it, and maybe at some point. So there's diminishing returns at some point. I'm not going to be a traveling pro. I've got a full-time job that I enjoy, so I like being mildly competitive and going out and playing. But yeah, success would be that, enjoying the game. And the rest follows.
I definitely enjoy just hanging out outside. And so if I'm having, a bad round or a bad shot here or there, just looking around at my environment and seeing, something to appreciate,
Mhm.
um, taking the mind off,
Yes.
something that bad. It was just an event that happened.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be the end of the world for you.
Oh, that's I mean,
There's a
I've played.
putting things in
Yeah.
perspective.
I was playing Hickory Hollow once, and I took a 7 on one of the holes that was just I just went out of bounds, then I, went out of bounds again, and then and if you know Hickory Hollow, it's like, that's too easy of a course to take a 7 on. So then the voices start spinning in the head, and it's like, just it's fine. It's fine. Now I'm free to enjoy the game, and, I played a pretty decent round after that and finished, I think, at par, so it was fine. But it's easy to say, well, I'm trash because I shouldn't have taken a 7 on the easiest course and da da da. So
Fluky things happen on
yeah,
your best rounds. I
yeah,
was at Hickory Hollow last week and I was shooting 9 down, and all of a sudden I
yeah,
came to the 16th hole and went out of bounds and hit a
uh-huh,
light pole, and I took a triple bogey.
yeah,
And it seems like there's always that one hole, even if you're
yes,
playing good. Sometimes
yes.
there's just that one hole that messes you up, that you just got to get over it and put it past you and
Hmm.
focus on the next
Well, and then
thing.
there's that one hole that's going to be awesome for you, and if you let the bad one get in the way, you're going to rob yourself of that really cool shot that comes after it.
Yeah, some of my best rounds start with a bogey on the first hole. I just
Yeah.
have to kind of
Yeah.
wake up and remember, oh, I'm out here playing a
Yes.
game and got to focus a little bit
Yes.
more, maybe. And
Yes. You just
yeah,
got to go with the flow. So what's next for us? What's the next thing that we want to accomplish as a club?
that's a good question. We've got a lot of courses around here, so I don't think we're looking to install any more courses.
No, not currently.
We've really just got to probably build up our membership
Mhm.
more where we're getting people coming to our events every
Yeah.
week. This is a hard time of the year to do that because it's
Mhm.
so hot out.
It's hot.
But during the winter time, we started a new thing this last year on Wednesdays with the time change. There isn't a 5:30 daylight,
Yeah.
that we can play disc golf. So we started playing glow golf
Mhm.
and setting up at Hickory Hollow. We have LED lights that we put on every basket to
Yes.
illuminate the chains. And we were able to bring glow in the dark discs that can be charged with a UV flashlight, and then it'll glow as you're throwing it through the
Mhm.
air so you can see where it lands and
Or
pick
slap
it.
the tape on it if you don't have the glow in the dark disc.
Yep, and it's a nice thing because you can still get out and be active after work in the evenings.
Mhm.
If it was cold out, we just bundle up a little bit,
Yep.
and it's a sport you can play in a lot of weather.
Mhm.
Pouring down rain and lightning is not one of those things, but a little bit of drizzle isn't too bad. And uh, the temperature changes here in the River Valley. We've got pretty mild winters, so that's another thing
Mhm.
that attracted me to living here was I could play disc golf in the winters.
Yeah.
Except for maybe a week here or a week there, but in the summers it gets pretty hot, and some people would rather stay inside. Some people, by for health reasons, don't want to be
Mhm.
outside in the heat and humidity. So maybe that's something we can start doing this summer, is bringing back the glow golf and doing it at night
Yeah.
or something. Of course, you're gonna have to play a lot later to
Yeah.
get that the night thing, but the darkness. But it's so hot in the middle of the day that it's better to go out maybe in the mornings when it's a
Mhm.
little bit cooler. You don't overheat. I know in the past there used to be a sunrise group that would go out at Old Post and play in the summertime before work, and you'd have people
Oh,
showing
wow.
up at 6 or
Yeah.
whenever it was, the sunrise. They might throw the first hole or two in a little bit of darkness, but the sun comes up. You start your day off right with a little bit of
Mhm.
exercise and some camaraderie with friends, looking over the Arkansas River. It's just a really nice, peaceful area to be. And then, you can go to work and start your day, and after you shower maybe.
Yeah.
But
Change your socks at least.
we're about to have a mini here at Old Post at 5:30. This is Wednesday, June 25th, and it's in the 90s right now.
Mhm.
So um, I'm gonna go out there, and if I feel like I can play in that heat and
Mhm.
humidity, I'm gonna do it. If I need some extra water to take, I'll pack it in my bag, and I'll refill as I need to, and maybe use some sunscreen. But
Mhm.
it's doable.
Yeah.
You just kind of pace yourself. We're not out there running a race. We're just walking around and picking up our disc and throwing it and
Yeah.
walking again,
Mhm.
repeat over and over. So I can do that and then take a shower when I get home, and that's a good way to end the day. I think just getting a little bit of exercise in after I've been sitting in front of a computer all day. I
Mhm.
need to at least walk around and get
Mhm.
my heart rate up a little bit. And disc golf is an easy way for me to do that. I'm not really into other sports. Um, but disc golf has just been my passion for
Yeah.
the last 25 years or more.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. Well, I think it's about time for us to land this plane. So I guess we can maybe each give a closing thought. So for me, again, it'd be if it doesn't matter what level of a disc golfer you are. If you want to come out and play, come out and play. If you're scared to play the tag event, just come and hop on a card and play anyway. We'll let you play with us whether you got a tag or not. You obviously won't get a tag for, you won't be in the order. But if you just want to throw a few shots and play maybe a few of the holes and see what it's like, we'd love to have you out. If you want to get some experience playing disc golf, if you get on our Facebook group and just say, hey, I want to get out and figure out how to do this thing, me, you, I bet a lot of people would say, hey, to come out with me, I'll throw you how to show some shots. So it's Let's get out and try it.
Yeah, I'd say pick up a disc or 2 and see if you like it. You know, it's a small investment, 20, $30, and you're in the
Yeah,
game. You're not gonna lose those discs if you play courses like Hickory Hollow, so, get out there and try it. You know, I would suggest stopping in and talking with Johnny Brazil at Jackalope, and he'll set you up with some discs that'll be
absolutely.
appropriate for your, abilities, and you can go from there. If you wanna buy more discs, you can, but it's really just about getting a couple discs, going out to the park, and seeing what the game's about. If you
Mm.
see those baskets in the park, they're not grills. They're often mistaken for things like that or trash cans. But most people, I think, know what disc golf is by
Yeah, and you
now.
got one on your shirt there, a little target
Yeah,
you can.
yeah. Here's the basket there. So it's in a lot of communities now.
Mhm.
So definitely check out UDisc if you're ever traveling somewhere. Um, just pull up the map and see if there's
Yeah.
a disc golf course nearby. I'm planning to go up to Minneapolis this weekend, and they're having the World Championship Masters disc golf championships up
Mhm.
there. And I'm an amateur, but they're going to have pros up there too. And I'm really going because I've never played disc golf in Minnesota. So those will be my first courses I play. And I've got a cousin whose daughter's getting married the following week,
Mhm.
so it's kind of nice to
Make a
be
whole
up there
thing
for
out of it.
2 weeks and make a vacation out of it. And so I'm going to spend 1 week playing the tournament, and then the following week I'll just play as many courses in the area as I can just to see what all that has to offer,
Mhm.
and hit up some Cubs Twins games. And it's just a thing that I'll probably do from sunrise to sunset on at least a couple of those days,
Yeah,
where I'm just going to play as many courses in a day as I can.
that's awesome.
Um, Probably end up playing, a dozen courses and 100 holes in one day. That's
Mhm.
what I've done several times when I go on a disc golf vacation, I call it,
Yeah.
is just see, what all the parks have to offer. There's some awesome things out there. And if you're walking around a park, you have the time to read things that are, signs in the park that talk about the history of the area or something
Mhm.
like that, or to meet other people on the course and to see, what some world class designers have built on some of these courses. It's amazing. The courses we have here in town are really great. There's some private courses out there that, like at Persimmon Ridge, that really offer a unique experience that you can't get in a public park,
Mhm.
but they cater to disc golfers. And so they have a pro shop. They have 4 different courses
Golf
on their
carts.
property, golf carts. So you can play in luxury if you want to, and
Mhm.
go to private establishments like that and get a really cool experience. You can also, play for free in public parks. There's a lot of churches and schools who have them now too. So I like to see, what different people have done with their property and how they, go about designing holes. And it's just fun to go out and see the world and travel around. So I would encourage people to do that.
Yeah, you got me all fired up now. I don't know about you, it's got me fired up.